Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam and welcome back to the AFI Project. I've made it a mission to review every single movie on AFI's Top 100 Movies of All Time list. I've already covered Citizen Kane, which will be annotated in the eye in the right hand corner if you would like to check that out. But for right now, let's dive into what I consider to be the greatest mob movie of all time, The Godfather. The Godfather was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It was also co-written by him, as well as Mario Puzo, who wrote the book of the same name. And it tells the story of the first family of crime, the Corleone family, and their slow and steady decline. Through a combination of the changing of the times and some very unfortunate events, the family's patriarch, Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando, is replaced by his youngest son, Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino. It's pretty safe to say that The Godfather is considered to be one of the greatest movies of all time. I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about it. I know that if I were to make a list of my favorite movies of all time, it would definitely be in the top tier. I love this movie to pieces. I try and watch it every year without fail, and I've so far succeeded because the movie is just that great. And I guess it was a good thing for Paramount that this movie was, and in many ways is, the success that it is today, because this movie basically saved Paramount. They were desperate for a hit, and so when The Godfather was pitched, they were like, okay, we could be onto something here. But in a classic case of studio interference, the original pitch was for The Godfather to take place in the present time of 1972 and in Kansas. I have nothing against the state or the people of Kansas. I'm sure they are very nice. But certain movies belong in certain places, and The Godfather certainly does not belong in Kansas. You might as well shoot a movie like The Blues Brothers, which is probably the most iconic Chicago-based movie of all time, in a city like, I don't know, Copenhagen. Thanks to the two-pronged attack of Francis Ford Coppola and Mario Puzo, the actual author of the book, they got the studio to change their mind and set the story in the late 1940s in New York City. And in that way, the story has become iconic. While I believe that the acting is incredible across the board, there is not a single bad performance in this movie. My two favorites were Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. You get immediately when you see Marlon Brando on screen that this is not the first time that he's done this. Like, he's been around for quite a while. Corleone doesn't take a ton of action. He doesn't even raise his voice all that much. But when he does raise his voice, you will know it. His voice has been mocked and parodied ever since this movie was released, but it's an iconic performance, despite the fact that Brando has maybe 10 scenes, maybe 11. That's just a rough guesstimate. But what makes Vito Corleone so fascinating is not the fact that he's like the typical gangster, he's not sleeping with other women and shooting random people on the street and doing stupid stuff like that. When you boil it all down, he's just a guy. And the fact that he does criminal activity to him was just a means to an end. As we will later see in the sequels, he was an immigrant, and a very poor one at that. So you could basically chalk up the Corleone Empire to, we did what we had to do to survive. We just happened to make a lot of money in the process. And like I said, my other favorite performance was Al Pacino as Michael Corleone. When you first see him, he's basically out of the family. He went off to fight in World War II, he got a lot of medals, and he came back with his new girlfriend, Kay Adams. It seemed like if there was any hope of him leaving, he was about as close to it, but again, thanks to a series of unfortunate events, and in his own words, just when he thought he was out, he was pulled back in. Michael really is our gateway into the Corleone family. In some of the best exposition ever done in any movie, He introduces us to how the family business works and how Vito Corleone, his father, operates. I think that's as good a place as any to jump into the wedding, because honestly, my favorite scene in this movie is the wedding. It's a snapshot of how happy the Corleone family is. It's like one of those drink it in type of moments, because the Corleone family is never that happy again. How the Corleone family does business, how Vito coordinates his business, how on the day of his daughter's wedding he cannot refuse a request, and he entertains them like large and small, like rich and haughty, and everything in between. Despite the fact that the Corleone family deals in very illegal things, they treat it like a legit legal business. The moment things started to go downhill, at least from what I've been able to observe, was when Virgil Sollozzo showed up. When Virgil shows up and he's like, hey, drugs are the new wave of the future. I've got a heroin plant all ready to go. It's all up to you, Vito. Let's make some money. Vito is like, thank you, but no thank you. I believe that drugs are a harmful hobby. It's not like alcohol or gambling. And it's because of this meeting with Sollozzo that Sollozzo and eventually the rest of the five families believe that the Corleones are stuck in the past. And it's like, okay, we either move on with them or without them. We're basically going to have to do business for them. A lot of blood is spilled and a lot of people die, but at the end of the day, it's the Corleones that are standing at the top of the heap. The very, very bloody heap. What else can I say about The Godfather that hasn't already been said by people far more qualified than me? This movie is excellent. It's 3 hours and it just flies right on by. The pacing is excellent. The acting is excellent. The score is iconic. It's got some of the most gruesome death scenes I've ever seen, specifically the Luca Brasi death and Sonny's death on the causeway, which still gives me nightmares to this day. While I believe there have been several great gangster movies in the past number of years since The Godfather, Goodfellas, Donnie Brasco, and Black Mass jump to mind, none will ever touch The Godfather. The Godfather is in a class by itself. But that is all for me, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next up on the AFI project, we're going to be taking a look at one of the best romantic films ever made, Casablanca, starring Humphrey Bogart. But if you liked this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts on Godfather in the comments section below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way, when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.